When candidates promise trillions of dollars in tax cuts that go mostly to the rich, this needs to change. American interests have to come before special interests. And the American worker and American jobs have to come first.
That's Hillary Clinton sending a clear message about her economic agenda while campaigning in Detroit yesterday. And it appears she's sticking to her word as a new study by the Tax Policy Center reveals that her plan to raise taxes on the wealthy will increase taxes by more than $78,000 per person and generate trillions in revenue. But is this the best long-term plan? Here to weigh in is the chair of the King's College Business and Finance Program in Manhattan, Brian Brenberg. Nice to see you again, Brian.
Good to be here. You bet.
Let's dive into some of the specifics of her tax reform plan. Let's put these up on the screen. Walk us through what we're seeing here.
Okay, so Clinton's talking about a number of different things. One of the biggest things is a 4% surtax on people earning $5 million or more. She also wants to make sure that wealthy taxpayers, those making more than $1 million, are paying a minimum income tax rate of 30%. We've called that the Buffett rule in the past. Raising capital gains rates on investments that are held for an intermediate period, 1 to 6 years. She's raising the rates to align more with ordinary income tax rates there. And then raising estate taxes, both the top rate to 45%, but also lowering the exemption on the estate tax to $3.5 million. So you'll be eligible at a lower level and you'll pay a higher top rate on the estate tax.
Okay, now her argument is that these capital investments, this would really help the middle class.
Yeah.
So let's break this down and go through the capital investments reduced by 2.8% over 10 years. What would that do for the middle class?
Yeah, so the problem here is she's saying, look, we're going to levy these taxes on the wealthy. 75% of my tax increases are going to be paid by the top 1%. But the important thing to understand is when you tax the rich, that doesn't just affect the rich, it affects everybody else, because the wealthy invest their money. They don't stuff it under a mattress. They invest it in businesses. They invest it in startups. That creates jobs. That creates economic opportunity. So when you tax the wealthy, what you're saying is don't do that as much. And that ends up flowing down to businesses who need that capital, ends up flowing down and impacting workers as well. So that's the real issue here.
You also say that this would help really eliminate 300,000 jobs over 10 years as well?
Again, it all comes down to what's the economic impact of raising taxes. If you raise taxes and it hurts economic growth, that can be a problem for workers, right? They're depending on businesses to grow and to hire. If businesses aren't doing that, workers' wages aren't going up. There's not going to be jobs available. So again, that's assuming that these taxes have a negative impact on how wealthy investors use their money. And I think the chances are good that it will.
She also, as you mentioned, wants to raise the capital gains rate. And for real estate investing, right, this has a big impact.
Absolutely.
Because you have real estate, you have the housing markets, which is still shaky and trying to struggle to come back. So investors who flip properties or do work on these properties and want to flip them to retail buyers, that really affects them too.
You want investors to sell an investment when it makes the most economic sense. But what happens when you raise the capital gains rate on sales between 1 and 6 years, you're asking investors to make investment decisions and sales decisions based on tax rules and not on what's economically most beneficial for them and for the economy. You want people to make efficient investment decisions. Taxes can get in the way of that. So that's the real problem with the capital gains tax rate increase here.
So instead of a builder trying to get the house done in 8 months, they might stretch it to 12 months in order to not be
or much longer. There's all sorts of unintended consequences here.
Interesting. Brian, thanks for diving into some of these details.
Great to be here.
Appreciate it.
Yep.